is bountiful blessings. God is only blessings. God is grace, beauty, bliss beyond your wildest dreams. There is no judgment of God. As you know, as Soul Center, we are a community based on the truth teachings from all the golden thread that runs through all of the religions and all of the indigenous teachings of truth, and that vibrates at such a high level. And in our practice, we use our practices of prayer and meditation, remembering that prayer is that portal that allows to lift from the earthly, the conditional, the limited, into the unlimited, into the magnificence. And so one of the things that we want to embody is an awareness of what's going on and remembering that most of what is happening in our lives is happening in the transitory field of the temporal. The temporal is the field of energy that's known as time and space. And we are here as spiritual warriors, enlightened beings, to transcend time and space and commune in the eternal for the experience of joy and bliss. We've come here for a tactile experience. We've come here to feel and experience the beauty of contrast, but we want to make sure that we don't get lost in a field where oftentimes things arise in our lives. Maybe there's illness that shows up. Maybe there's something that's going on in a relationship. Maybe there's something that is going on financially or something like that. And we want to make sure that we don't get mired down in the effect. We want to move and rise above, even above cause. We want to rise above the secondary cause, which is in the land of illusion, and rise to first cause, which is God. The topic for today is to get on your mark, get ready, and thrive. And thriving is the very nature of God. Getting on your mark means that you are willing to choose to say, okay, I want to get in alignment with my soul's purpose. There is something coded and loaded in each and every one of us that is seeking to emerge and express itself into the world through joyous and beautiful ways. God wants to use us as an instrument of love, of joy, of peace, of grace. Our job is to cultivate that, is to become aware of what that is. That's getting on our mark. Getting ready, it's kind of, you know how athletes, when they're preparing, if you were preparing for a race, they're, at the beginning, first of all, you've been doing some of your work. You've been getting ready prior to showing up at the race. You've been doing everything that you need. You've been doing your stretches and your exercises, and you've been doing everything that your coaches, your community, there's usually a community of people that supports you in that. So you're getting ready both prior, and then when you show up, you're deliberate. There's a reason. You're showing up to get on that mark. And then you're getting ready by cultivating everything that you've done prior to that moment to get ready to spring into whatever it is that you're going to do. And it's a great metaphor for the way life is, because some of us get caught in a mundane energy, or there's these race-conscious energies that swirl around. And so every morning, we are given this beautiful opportunity, actually every moment of every day, but I'm just going to zero in on the morning. The morning is when you're given this opportunity to get on your mark, to get intentional, to commune and connect with your soul, with the presence of God, to feel the glory, to feel like, what is it? One of the questions that you will have throughout your entire life that you'll not want to let go of is, what is seeking to emerge through me? What is my soul seeking to express and to experience into this world? And so oftentimes, as we're trying to express, and some of us, you've heard me share before that in the olden days, before I was a late bloomer. I'm 53 now, and back in my mid-30s is when I woke up. And so for those first 34 years, I was kind of aimlessly wandering without any real guidance, without any real connection to my soul. I was like, soul what? Purpose what? I don't know what that is. And I knew some people around me that were very much connected. They were connected to their passion. Musicians are usually so connected to their passion. And artists are very connected to their passion. And I was kind of like, I got nothing here. I was just connected to making it. I was in survival mode. And on a macrocosmic scale of your own life. So remembering, you have your own life, your own world. You have dominion over your life, the entirety of your life. Do not be fooled that there are certain things going on in the world that you don't have control over, because the world, your world, you have absolute dominion over, which is different than control. Control is usually associated with the ego, and the ego is trying to control things. Things have to be a particular way, and as we've talked in the past before, the ego is more associated on the level of happiness. Happiness is usually attributed to needing to be in control of certain things, and I'll be happy if these things work out. As opposed to joy, joy is one of those things where it's an eternal frequency energy, and when joy is moving through you, it can lead to happiness. And like excitement versus enthusiasm. Excitement is usually tied to time and space and conditions needing to, oh, I get all excited about this when this is happening, and then I'll be happy if these things happen. Enthusiasm, from the Greek entheos, to be inspired by God. We want to be enthusiated on a regular basis, and that's when we get on our mark. To get enthusiated, which I know is not a proper English word, but it's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites because it counts to be enthusiated by God. I love that. How to move it through you. Because enthusiasm has inspiration. It has motivation. Enthusiasm, different than motivation. Motivation is like sometimes it's a thing I gotta get motivated. I gotta use willpower instead of divine will to get motivated. Enthusiasm comes from the life force energy that we call chi or prana. And it's like, and enthusiasm is connected to the power and the presence of your soul. So to get ready, sometimes we're traveling through this journey and we come across some stumbling blocks. And one of those stumbling blocks, and I put it in, it can be from the biggest department to the smallest. And so judgment is one of those things that we want to be mindful of, because judgment is an energy that will create separation between you and the divine. And our whole journey, the journey to wholeness, is to go from separation from God to oneness with God, which is also synonymous with enlightenment. And you know, every single one of us is on the path of enlightenment. There is nobody that's not on the path to strive into their Buddha consciousness, their Christ consciousness, the Atman presence. We are all seeking to do that. And because time doesn't exist, and there is only the eternal, and we can take as much time as we like to move into enlightenment. But as you've heard me say, self-proclaim Reverend Fun, because I like to have fun. Fun is one of those, we're here, joy. Fun is an aspect, it's a byproduct of fun. I mean, fun is a byproduct of joy, is what I meant to say. And again, we're bringing those, but we want to be very conscious. And judgment is one of those things that can create separation, and it can be on the most extreme, where it's like, you're so blah, 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 blah. And I just want you to know that judgment is never, usually 99.9% of the time, has nothing to do with A, the situation at hand, and B, the other person. Because when we are judging somebody else, we are judging ourselves. And so that creates separation and a house that's divided within our own energy field. And we are to be here on this journey to wholeness, on the hero's journey. We are here to embody oneness within our own beingness and have dominion over our own life and know the difference between judgment and discernment. Discernment means you can assess what's going on from a higher perspective and you make choices from the higher perspective versus judgment, which is from a lower perspective, from a surface mind, and will add to separation, not only within your own beingness, but probably with the person that you're judging. And so we don't want to do that. And so for an example, on the extreme end, it can be like, oh, so-and-so is so this, and so that, and so this. And we're taking that information off. It's circumstantial information, and it's coming through the filters of your own energy body. Some of it may be, sometimes like you may have experienced, I remember a time when I was working with a couple, and this couple came in, and they were, we'd set the ground rules. There's no blaming, no shaming, no pointing fingers. And immediately they started blaming, shaming, pointing fingers. So we had to kind of deal with that for a moment. But one of the things that all of a sudden, as we went into the prayer field, we evoked prayer, because we always start with prayer. Prayer is kind of like the cosmic neutralizer that brings you into the eternal. And so we brought it into prayer, and then all of a sudden, the wife, she was like, oh my goodness, you are not your behavior. Our behaviors arise at particular points, and our behaviors are tied, oftentimes, especially if there are bad behaviors, are tied to the pain body. And the pain body is where erroneous information is. And most of us have heard the very good advice, which is never make a decision when you're angry. Why? Because you're going to make that predicated on erroneous or lies information, and we don't want to do that. We want to come from a place, from a higher consciousness, from the observer, because not only will it spare some destruction that's going to happen if I cave in to that, but it also will bring liberation within your own beingness. And so on the high end, there can be the where we get so angry and we kind of blame somebody for what they're doing to me. And we know in our spiritual community that it is never anything that is happening through our lives is happening on some level. We want to take ownership and responsibility, and we're talking about the uppercase R responsibility, which is there's no blaming of anything, including ourselves. It's from a higher witnessing perspective. So several years ago, I was working on an event, I'll even go back a little bit further. Years ago, when I got into a spiritual community, when I first got to a God, I said, oh my God, because there's nothing better than just being with people that are of like mind and loving and are committed to the principles, the omnipresence, omnipotent, omniamorous light of God, and that honors all traditions and all religions from the highest consciousness. And so it's like, I just felt so delicious and so home. And then I remember one day my rose-colored glasses kind of got taken off and thrown on the ground and smashed because somebody did something that was kind of like rude or out of alignment. And then I had some judgment on that. I was like, I thought we were in a spiritual community and we were supposed to know better than that. And so then flash forward, I'm working on this event, and it's an event where there was a whole bunch of people who've been on the path, spiritual people who've been doing their work and they're praying and meditating and etc. And I was in charge of a particular aspect of it, and I had organized a special ritual, a ceremony that was supposed to really cleanse and purify and bring out joy and connect you with your soul's purpose. And so, and it was kind of a very elaborate event, and people had to come. They were coming from all over, and they were parking, and there was one other person who was kind of one of the featured presenters. And we were saving a space because when he arrived, he was going to have to unload his car and bring some things in. And he was going to arrive closer to the actual, a different portion of the event. And so this spiritual person shows up, and he pulls in, and the very first thing is there's all these cars parked everywhere. There's one spot left at the front, and he pulls into that spot thinking, like, yeah, I got this spot. And I had to go, I'm sorry, but we're saving this spot. And I could tell that he was a little like he felt he'd done something wrong. And I presented it in a very kind and gentle way. But oftentimes, you can present something, the way energy you're presenting with, you may not know that sometimes we're stepping or pushing somebody's button. And so, anyway, that was the first thing. And then they went and moved and parked. And then they came out. This person happened to be late for the first part of the ceremony, and so they didn't know a few things that had been announced at the beginning. And one of the things that was announced at the beginning is that once the process started, you were going to go into silence. And so they came out, because they were late and they didn't hear them, they're like going over to people and chatting with people, and they're all like, oh, shh, we're supposed to be in silence. And then they got all bent out of shape because they felt they had done something wrong again. And so anyway, I was the first stop on the path of going through the rest of the journey of that day or that morning. And so they came to me, and they felt that they needed to vent out to me because I was responsible for that part. I said, and they were kind of like in a little bit of a huff. So that's what I'm looking for. One of those. And they started complaining to me, and they felt, and I could tell, I was like, I can tell they're hurt, upset because they feel that they've done something wrong. So I was like, okay. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I probably could have dotted my I's and crossed my T's a little bit better. I should have had something there. And I just went to where they were, and then I gave them a big hug, and I said, okay, and we're just going to go ahead. And they felt their body kind of went like, okay. And then they were able to move into the process and the rest of the day. And then later in the day, I remember I caught myself, I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, oh man, I was really thinking that, somebody who's been doing it for this long, they ought to be a little more further along to not be getting offended by that. And I was like, oh! One of my Homer Simpson's moments, oh! And I was like, I had to grab that because that's a judgment. And I had to grab that judgment, and I was like, oh my God. And then when I sat with the judgment, I was like, oh, I'm judging myself because I also think that I ought to be further along in this path. And so those are kind of the dust bunnies that we want to start becoming aware of. You've heard me say it before, that forgiveness is a transmuting energy. It's a transmuting nectar. And so we want to use forgiveness. So I had to forgive myself and forgive the situation. Really, it was just about forgiving myself in that particular moment for having judgment. And it's so beautiful and it's so liberating because it takes you to the sweet space and it opens you. And then if I'm free of some judgment within me, that makes me more able to be there for other people. And as Howard Thurman says, to be to someone the very thing they need at the moment they need it is to be the angel of God. And I choose to be the angel of God with everything and everyone. And that is part of the path of enlightenment. So if that doesn't sound appealing, that's where you're headed anyway. And it is fun, and it is filled with joy, and it is filled with liberation, and it is filled with spaciousness, which is what we are here to be. And in the practice of Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian act of forgiveness, some of you may have heard this story before, where there was it's basically where you practice through meditation and through prayer the energy of forgiveness. And there was a doctor in Hawaii that had been practicing this for a long time, and he had been invited to work with a psychiatric ward at a hospital. And he was given all the cases and all the files and all the folders of all the different people that have all the different ailments in their minds. And what he did was, a lot of times people we would take and we would look at this information and go, oh, they have this and they have that. And then whatever it is that comes along with it, maybe there's some judgments, maybe there's some lack or limitation that comes along with it. But the practice asks you to not buy into the condition or the diagnosis and to see the magnificence of each individual, which is what he did. And just because we want to put it in the right order. And so he would use his mantra, which is, forgive me, I'm sorry, I love you, and thank you. That's a real short and condensed version of the energy that we're bringing into our consciousness, where it's like we're saying forgive me because that starts to break up the lack consciousness, the judgment consciousness. The I love you starts to evoke the presence of God into you. And in God, all things are not only possible, but all things are made brand new. And we would turn to the beginning. And then I'm sorry is like, that's another aspect. We're just kind of cultivating that, and thank you is the gratitude that we know something greater. And whenever we're working with the transmuting energies of the Holy Divine, we want to evoke them through us. Some of you know that I do a particular type of energy medicine, a divine energy medicine, which is steeped in the connection of prayer, and it's also connected to the angelic realm. And the angelic realm is where you start to commune with particular aspects of God. The aspects of God known as Archangel Michael or Archangel Ariel or Archangel Uriel or Gabriel from Scripture, the messenger of truth. And we know in our teachings that there is only one angel, and that angel is God. But God shows up as qualities of beauty, the eternal qualities, beauty, joy, love, grace, and those energies are seeking to thrive through us. And so it's kind of interesting in the world of duality. We're here, we're in duality. We chose to be in human form, we chose to be in these bodies, and we chose for a reason because we want to experience, like, this feels like a podium, it feels solid. It feels like there's light shining in this room. It feels like there's a whole bunch of people here. And that's part of the beauty of contrast, is that we get to mix and mingle with the qualities of God that show up in the manifest world. So that is very good. And we show up in all different shapes and colors and sizes. But the one thing that is the same within all of us is we all have the eternal spark of God Almighty within us. And we are to access that, to get on our mark every day. And sometimes we have to get on our mark more than once. Sometimes we have to get on our mark a few times during the day, get back to center, get back and do an evocation where we bring that in. And as we put a little plug in for the meditation class. So meditation class come in super easy, super wonderful, but that starts to expand your consciousness into grace. In the meditation class, we're going to look at moving meditation, sound meditation, stillness meditation. All of them carry the golden thread in meditation, which brings you to a greater awareness of God. And God is bliss, grace, beauty, and joy, and that's what we're all seeking. This is all just this beautiful, it's like we're in a big production called human life, and we've all put on our costumes. Some of us have taken these costumes too seriously. We think that we're a man or a woman or this color or that race or this religion or whatever. And it's true, there's some beauty in all of that. There's some magnificence in all that. But there's something deeper and more magnificent. And it's from that place that we can allow ourselves to transcend one of those aspects called judgment. And judgment is an energy that just creates divisiveness. And it can be a little tricky at times. We can, the Democrats, the Republicans. We can say, this person or these groups of people or those people in that country or that part of the world. We're all we're all spiritual beings having a human incarnation. We all have the same anatomy of our physical, emotional, mental, bliss bodies, our karmic body, and we're all here to be enlightened. And I like how Joel Goldsmith says the person who turns within for light, for grace and understanding and forgiveness never fails in his prayers, his or her prayers. And when we turn within, some people, I was talking to somebody recently who said that, something they're involved in is inviting them, some of the people want her to be a little more aggressive, a little more using like the force energies to make things happen. And real strength comes from a humility that allows you to stand in the presence of God, unmoved and unwavered by the world of effects, and to transcend even our own feelings. And as it says in Conversations with God, the things that are happening are merely that what is happening. How you feel about it makes all the difference. And understanding how you feel about something and remembering that there's always a subtext. There's something underneath that will take you to the truth. Just like when I was sitting with the lady who came up to me and she was complaining because she was late and this and that and whatever, and she didn't know and she felt, kind of silly or that she had done something wrong. She never said those words. But the subtext of what she was saying, because she was kind of blaming me, that I didn't do a good enough job to make it clear enough for her so that she wouldn't feel wrong, is what the words were saying. But the subtext underneath was that she felt out or excluded or had done something wrong. And so to be the angel of God for her was to say, okay. And so my charge to you is, if there is an argument that you have ever had or maybe are having or will have, if you can just take a moment and come to center, and no matter what the other person is saying, be the angel of God for them, and just be like, listen to the subtext, even if they're like, what's the subtext underneath? Because if you can be for them what they need at that particular moment, you will have a healing that will transcend time and space and not only liberate them, because it will help them feel supported and loved, but it will liberate you as well. So one of the things, we're not going to waste any time because we're getting ready to close, but I'm just going to have you, one of the things that we do sometimes in our spiritual practice, it seems like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll have to think about that, and I'm going to apply it, maybe in my next meditation or tomorrow or next week, and then things happen, and then you forget. And I was like, okay, so we're going to do it right now. We're just going to say, if you'll repeat after me, I choose to be awake in God.
I choose to be awake in God.
And hear the call of my soul.
And hear the call of my soul.
I allow God's truth to guide and direct me.
I allow God's truth to guide and direct me.
To the highest good for everything and everyone.
To the highest good for everything and everyone.
And I choose to be on my mark.
And I choose to be on my mark.
And to get ready.
And to get ready.
And to thrive.
And to thrive.
Every day.
Every day.
Okay, we're going to take that right there. We're going to grab it and we're going to seal it in the field of prayer. So I'm going to invite you to join me as we turn within. We turn within, and as we turn within, we become soft. We become malleable. We become open. We become available, and we become vulnerable to good and only good, to God, to bliss, to grace, to beauty, to the truth, to providence that guides and directs us. We open to this, and we know there is a divine impulse. God Almighty, God All Good, God All Magnificence, that is everywhere as bliss, everywhere as truth, everywhere as freedom, everywhere as kindness and generosity and prosperity. We open to that this day, and we remember that we are one with God, that we are here to be served and to serve the glory of the kingdom of heaven into and through and as our lives, and that it is God's good pleasure to bring forward the kingdom of heaven for us and through us and to us, and that we are allowing ourselves to so profoundly hear the call of our soul, our oneness with Spirit, and to allow bliss and grace, and to heal and grow and glow in benevolent and beautiful ways. We are choosing this day, right here, right now, to increase our capacities to hold more joy, more love, more wellness, more goodness, more clarity, more prosperity than ever before. We claim it, and we know that God only says a yes. And as we call it forward, and as we evoke it, and as we move into allowing, we feel the energy of gratitude. Gratitude for knowing that we are one with this presence. Gratitude for knowing it is done. It is in motion, and we receive it. We receive it as the good stewards of divine right receivership. We receive it completely and fully and magnificently by saying, and so it is. And so I let it be. Amen. Amen. Ashe. Aho. Shalom. Hotep. And hallelujah. Yes. Woo! Okay. It is time for our conscious tithing, and so I'm going to have the ushers come forward. And as we prepare our tithes, and as we open to what tithing truly is, which is a way that we participate in the energy of circulation and ever-expanding good as prosperity. And so we want to bring an energy to that circulation. We want to energize the circulation, knowing that I am not giving my money. I am circulating the holy presence of light and love of God as a money into the world, and I can expect by the law for it to return to me minimally tenfold. Minimally. And it is with that we ask the ushers to go forward.